The need to talk some Cowboys. Good afternoon, everybody. Game Time Brian here, otherwise known as the Mailman, coming to you live. Not really, but coming to you from the Bat Cave, not the mail truck. Coming to you today on this beautiful day. Wanted to talk about a few things. The season is getting near. We're only a couple weeks out from training camp. I'm only a little over 3 weeks out from, or actually I think it's 3 weeks to the day that me and Mark Holmes will be arriving in Canton to spend 3 days at in Canton to watch the, not so much I could care less about the game, but we're going to go be a part of the game, and then more importantly, check out the Hall of Fame and be a part of the induction ceremony. Well, I'll be able to witness Chuck Howley and DeMarcus Ware, amongst others, being inducted to the Hall of Fame. So I'm very excited about that, and I will make sure that I do live streams and bring you guys along for the ride. That being said, I got a few things that I want to talk about. Looking at the thumbnail, I'm going to stick to that, and let's start out with the Eagles. The Eagles are the darlings of the NFL right now. Everybody's loving themselves some Eagles. Nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But when you talk about the Eagles, you talk about a very talented team who had some changes last year in the offseason, and we'll get to that. And you Cowboy fans, don't worry. I'm getting to some Cowboys content, but I wanted, to address the main narrative going out now, that it's the Eagles' conference, definitely the division to win, and everybody else be damned. It's theirs to lose, basically. They are the favorites. I don't know what to think when I hear these pundits when they say that the Eagles are the team to beat. Obviously, they're a talented team. They went and represented the NFC in the Super Bowl last year. But basically, when you have a team who is that talented and has done what they've done, and now you got Jalen Hurts went out and signed a mega deal. He's no longer playing on his rookie contract. The pressure is up. The pressure is way up on the Eagles. I've said this on my last live stream, or on Sunday with Mark Holmes. I said, with that pressure, it's either going to, one of two things is going to happen. It's either going to fuel them to even greater success, and we'll get into the history of teams losing in the Super Bowl, the year after, what happens. Or it's going to burst the pipes, and they're going to have a mediocre year, and we'll blame it on injury or whatever, but that's what's going to happen. But the fact of the matter is the NFC East is probably the hardest division in the NFC now, which we've come a long way since then. So Jalen Hurts has all the hype, and I love Jalen Hurts. I think he's first and foremost, he's a great person. He went on to receive his college diploma. He didn't have to. He's got generational wealth. He'll never have to work another day in his life. So I give him credit for that. I challenge any Eagle fan to give Dak any credit for being the NFL Man of the Year or going through what he has gone through in his life, his young life, with the suicide of his brother, his passing of his mother to cancer, on and on. Dak is a leader everywhere he's gone, and I want to see the man win, and we will get to the Cowboys and actually winning. But the pressure is on the Eagles. And they brought back both of their cornerbacks. They brought back, they brought in two stud running backs, DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny, both of whom, when healthy, you can be great. But the big thing is when healthy. We're going to see if they could stay healthy for a full season. They have yet to do it. They're both on short deals, so if they can't do it, they ain't gonna be here long. So they did. Their offense, to me, did even get better, in my opinion. You got Dallas Goedert, who's a top 3 tight end in this league. You got Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, who are top 5 with the latest. I believe it was the players, or maybe, I don't think it was Pro Football Focus, but they had they were ranking the receivers. So, hey, listen, very, very talented offense. Jason Kelce came back on a 1-year deal. Lane Johnson was extended. So there's a lot of pressure on that offense to keep it going. They did lose Shane Steichen, their offensive coordinator, and I think that's a big deal. They lost their defensive coordinator, and we'll get to that side of the ball shortly. I will get to the Cowboys. I will get to Saquon Barkley, but I will get to our Cowboys. Yeah, there's a lot of pressure, and the offense shouldn't miss a beat, right? But the head coach is not going to call the plays. The head coach is not going to call the plays. It's going to be Brian Johnson, the quarterback's coach, who, funny enough, ended up playing. He was a quarterback in high school. He played under Jalen Hurts' father. So there's a connection there. I don't know that that's always a good thing, but we're going to see. You're going to let the quarterback's coach call the plays after a very successful year. I know you lost Shane Steichen, but I don't know, man. If I'm Nick Sirianni, I think I would want to call the plays. But, be that as it may, it is what it is. There's a lot of pressure on the Eagles. If it gets out to a rocky start, which I'm on record as saying that I think they're going to be 5-0, 5-1 after 6 games. I think their schedule is easy in the beginning and then gets a lot harder. If they're not 5-0, 5-1, there might be some red flags. And I know, you're going to go, well, wow, if they're 4-2, that's not good. They need to get out to a good start. If they're 500, they're in trouble. But I want to give you a couple reasons why, and it's just not me being a fan, why I think that the Eagles are not going to repeat as the NFC East champions. It's been since 2003. Now, it has been replayed over and over that it's been since 2003, 2004 since a team has won the NFC East back-to-back. There's a reason for that. Oh, and by the way, it was the Philadelphia Eagles in a horrible NFC East back in the day. Not today, where I think it's the best division in the NFC. I didn't look overall, but I would say the NFC definitely. We've come a long way, NFC East. But the Giants, I know they're going to win 9-10 games. I got them winning 10. I think the Cowboys and the Eagles are both going to be right around 11. And whoever's healthy is going to go forward. As far, So, but it's been a long time since a team has won back-to-back. And that's because the following year, now the Eagles had an easy schedule last year. It's not their fault. I'm not using that as an excuse, but it is what it was. Dallas had a first-place schedule last year because they won the year prior. And yet they still won 12 games. So, are the Eagles going to win 13, 14 games? I don't think so. I think they're more like 11 and 12 as their ceiling. But that's just all rhetoric at this point. We're going to see, but there's a reason for that. You got to play a first-place schedule. And the other teams in your division all offseason gear up on beating you and dethroning you as the East champions. So that's not me. Those are the numbers, people. Those are the facts. Can the Eagles do it? Yeah. Are the odds in their favor? No, they're not. And speaking of odds, let's get into the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl era. In the Super Bowl era, which is what I like to refer to. I don't really want to know anything outside of that. I know Eagles won a lot of championships in a 14-team league. Whatever. Who cares? That was, I don't really care. They didn't even keep track of stats properly back then. Not to say they weren't good, but I'm talking about the Super Bowl era. There's only been 3 teams who's ever lost in a Super Bowl and then went back the next year to actually get to the Super Bowl and win it. Now, we've seen the Buffalo Bills. We've seen the Bills get to 4 in a row, right, and lose all 4. And that's one of those 12 that I mentioned a couple weeks ago that have never won a Super Bowl. So for you Bills fans, you'll talk about pressure. The pressure's on the Bills because they've been getting all this hype over the last couple of years, and what have they done with it? Nothing. They get there, and then they choke in the playoffs. So 1970, the Cowboys lost, okay, and then they won in 71. They beat the Dolphins. So they lost in 70 Super Bowl, went back the next year, and beat the Dolphins in 71. Okay, it's funny because all three of these teams did it in 3 years, back to back to back. Because then in 72, the Dolphins ended up winning the Super Bowl. They lost to the Cowboys in 71. They got back there in their undefeated 14-0 season and won the Super Bowl in 72. And then in 72, they beat the Redskins. Okay. And then the Redskins, the next year, won the Super Bowl in 73. And I'm saying the Redskins because that's what they were called back then. So nobody called the police on me because I called them, the Redskins. I know they're the left-hand up Commanders now. I don't know for how long, but regardless, it's been 50 years? 70, 71, and 72. So let's go 72, 82, 92, 2002, 2012. Over 50 years since a team has lost in the Super Bowl, then made it back to the Super Bowl and won it. So Eagles, you got everything going against you. You lost both coordinators. You lost 7 people on defense. I already said that Nick Sirianni isn't going to be calling the plays. I just know that when the media is hyping a team or anybody, when the media hypes, they really enjoy getting the fans worked up and putting you up on a pedestal. But the media also thrives and loves when a team fails and is falling off, and they like to kick you when you're down. That's just the way this league is. They love kicking the Cowboys. So if the Eagles do not have a great year this year, expect to be kicked because you guys are the darlings. That's just a fact. I think they're going to be good, and I think it's going to come down to them and the Cowboys this year with the Giants on our tail. So, my opinion, and I'm going to stick to it. I think the team that's healthy down the end, I don't even think it really matters who wins between the Eagles and Cowboys, assuming either one of them don't suffer any major quarterback injuries. That's basically it. That if as long as Hurts stays healthy and Dak stays healthy, I think it's whoever's playing good going into the playoffs. I really think that's the team that's going to end up in a Super Bowl. Now, that's enough of the Eagles. Enough of the Eagles. So on to the Cowboys. I'm hearing and I'm watching Dak Prescott, and like he did an interview the other day, and they asked him about his urgency, and Dak was honest, man. And you got to put yourself in Dak's mindset. Dak says he's urgent to win a Super Bowl. I ask you, why wouldn't he be urgent to win a Super Bowl? He turns 30. He's July 29th. So before the season starts, he's going to be 30. He sees his best friend in Zeke Elliott, who's like 28, who came out as a sophomore, and he's no longer on the team. I think it's starting to set in that NFL careers are like that. It really is like a blink of an eye. Except quarterbacks, wide receivers can last, and offensive linemen usually, and great defensive players, edge rushers, and corners. But he knows that he's not going to be around forever. His injury that he came back from, he still has to prehab. I heard that the other day. He still has to prehab that thing in the offseason. It's a 12-month out of the year thing where he's always going to have to worry about that ankle for the rest of his career, for the rest of his life. When he gets out of bed in the morning, he has to do certain things to get his leg loose, That's just a fact. That's not an excuse. He suffered a horrendous injury that my man came back from, and he thrived. Did he win a Super Bowl? No. But, of course he feels pressure. He has an owner who's in his 80s. He loves Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones has made him a very rich man. Um, you know, I'm on record as saying I hate the fact, and Jerry, if you're watching, Jerry, if you happen to be watching me, I don't care that you're doing a Netflix series. I just wish you wouldn't bring it out now. You're making $50 million on a Netflix series going over your success in the 90s and you're winning. Well, it's been over 25 years. Well, it's ridiculous. As a Cowboy fan, no wonder everybody hates us. We're tired of talking about the 90s. Now, I'm not going to take away what we've done. I don't count our Super Bowl losses. They're losses. Nobody cares about losses. I've talked about that recently. Nobody cares about the fact that we lost to the Steelers back-to-back. I don't acknowledge that because we lost. It's how many you've won. And that's just a fact. But Dak is feeling the pressure. He lost Zeke. He lost Amari Cooper a couple years ago. They finally came in and brought in a guy who can help stretch the field in Brandon Cooks. He's always had 1,000 yards whenever he's played a full season at any team. That's going to help him. But he's got, just having a guy isn't enough because you need to be on the same page, which is why they're putting in the work in the Dak yard, behind Dak's house with this new Texas Coast offense. We'll see how that all plays out. You added Deuce Vaughn. It's up to Dak to get him involved. And the few, and I say few new plays that they're going to incorporate, because they're going to get the ball out of his hands, but they're still going to go with the plays that worked, the option routes. It's the key of being on the same page. And with Brandon Cooks there and not having to rely on Noah Brown as much, I think that's a plus. So, Dak, he does have a new offensive coordinator as well, like Jalen Hurts. Brian Schottenheimer, who relies on the run more, which is exciting. I think they're going to use Pollard, Deuce Vaughn, and more two-back sets, along with, if I keep saying this to Mark Holmes. I said, Ronald Jones is no lock to make the team. I think it's going to come down to Ronald Jones. They may keep all four. Maybe they'll stash somebody. You got Rico Dowdle is going to get an unbelievable amount of work in the preseason just because they know what Ronald Jones is. Deuce Vaughn will get some work as well. But with this day and age, they need to know about their rookies and keep these veterans healthy, especially with the extra game being played. But expect Dallas to have more two-back sets, but Dak is going into a new offense, and he has to do even more. He has to worry about getting the young tight end Luke Schoonmaker involved. Keeping Jake Ferguson happy, like along with the Peyton Hendershot. You getting Deuce Vaughn, you got Tony Pollard, you got Malik Davis. I think Malik and Ronald Jones are going to be competing, but I think you can keep them all. Not to mention Hunter Lepke, the fullback, who I'm hearing is in a lot of sets. Expect them to have a fullback at the goal line a lot. So Dak has pressure, but you know what? Dak is the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, and there's always pressure on the Cowboys quarterback and the Cowboys in general. So Dak's the type of guy who welcomes the pressure, but it's time to do it. As a Cowboy fan, I'm tired of ownership talking about winning. It's time to go win. There's a reason why other teams hate us so bad because we keep looking back to the 90s. The 90s aren't going anywhere. We'll always have them glory years. But it's time to move forward and shut the Eagles fans up because they're right. Sorry, they're right. We haven't won nothing anytime soon. We've won a couple playoff games with no real sustained playoff success from year to year. So, it is what it is. But it's July 17th. We have a deadline approaching. It's the franchise tag. It's I don't think that Dallas is going to sign, um, a running back Tony Pollard to a long-term deal. I think he'll end up playing on the 1 year, 10.1, just under 10.1 mil a year. I think that's a smart move, especially coming back from the injury. But Saquon Barkley is not happy. He is not a happy camper. And I would just tell Saquon, just look around you, my man. I know you're not getting what you may want, but I would just say look around you because he's threatening to pull a Le'Veon Bell and sit out the season. And trust me, that's the worst thing you could do is sit out the season because it ain't like the NFL teams are going to say, "Oh wow, look at you. You sat out a year. You're fresh." That's not the way it's going to work. They're going to say, "You're a year older, my man, and we're not going to pay you." That's more of a reason not to give you a long-term deal. It is said that he wants $16 million a year. I don't see it happening, man. He wants Christian McCaffrey money. Now, just remember, Christian McCaffrey was traded for. So the Niners were under more pressure to do something like that. As you see, in my opinion, there's some kind of collusion going on where the teams have gotten together and say, we're not going to pay receivers outside of Baltimore who were negotiating against themselves when they went out and signed OBJ. Why they gave him 15 mil, but hey, that's on them. For the most part, nobody's given these receivers outside of their first contract big money, as well as running backs. And I'm not saying you're not going to get a big contract on your first on your first deal, but that second deal, D Hop is going to be playing. He's debating on whether even playing because they're offering him slightly above the veteran minimum, which is crazy to me. Something's going on. But Saquon, he turned down because the Giants offered him $13 million a year, $26 million guaranteed over the first 2 years. Now, I'm not saying he was right or wrong by turning that down. But what I am saying is that you may not get 16. So, to say that you might sit out a year is a mistake. I would say look for Saquon and the Giants to, I think this might happen. I think the Giants may offer Saquon a 1 year, $15 million deal, 14 and a half, maybe 14 something, not the 13, maybe 14, between 14 and 15 million a year, guaranteed for a 1 year deal, with the promise of not tagging him again next year. Now, I don't know why the Giants would do that because they hold all the leverage. They could tag him this year and tag him next year. But if the guy is saying that he doesn't want to do that, then and you're not willing to give him a long-term deal, which I still think is on the table. But I think, if I had to guess, I think that they might just agree to a 1 year deal like that. But the deadline is coming up 4 o'clock on Monday the 17th for anybody that had the franchise tag put on them to either sign a new deal or you're going to be playing on the tag. So that's where we are at. Just a quick programming note, make sure you check out me and my partner, Primetime Phil, Saturday night at 7 o'clock Eastern on Primetime Phil. Saturday night, 7 o'clock Eastern time on Primetime Phil. I will put the link. I said I was going to do it last year, but I didn't get he didn't get the thumbnail to me. And it'll be in the description below, in the comments below. As soon as I'm done recording this video, I will put it in there. Make sure you guys tune in to Primetime Phil and I, brought to you by Primetime Studios on Saturday night at 7 o'clock Eastern. We're going to talk about Jalen Tolbert, and I want to get into some of the young linebackers as well. But don't forget to tune in. Like I said, we are not far away from the start of training camp, and I'm very excited about going to the Hall of Fame. Stay tuned for a lot more content. And with that, that's all I have for you. I am Game Time Brian saying I will see you Saturday night. Peace out.